Welcome back. And now it's time for our press review. We're going to take a look at the main headlines of our Egyptian dailies. It's a pleasure to have with us our guest, Dr. Viviana Morcos. She's a political commentator. First of all, good morning, doctor.
Good morning.
Let me start by taking a look at the banner of the Weft newspaper. President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi on Thursday issued a decree for concerned state authorities to launch a number of national projects nationwide. Al-Sisi issued resolution number 221 of the year 2016 to launch a sewage project in Tour City, Qalyubiyya province, and according to the resolution, concerned authorities will take over through direct implementation method of the land necessary for the project. Another sewage project will be launched in El Khanka in Qalyubiyya according to the decree number 222 for the year 2016. The President's decree number 232 for the year 2016 ordered the economic zone in the Sinai Peninsula exempted from the provisions of decree law number 14 of 2012 of its possessional nature. Another presidential decree commissioned the military to be in charge of the lands at a distance of 2 kilometers on both sides of the national roads network. Under decree number 233 for the year 2016, Al-Sisi ordered the armed forces to remove all encroachments on the national network of roads. So we have a number of decrees, and I believe they are all very important because in a way or another they have to do with the national security.
Certainly. We noticed that in the past 30 years or so, there have been a lot of neglect in so many areas of Egypt, especially sewage, electricity, and all that. So that's why it became a law. That means that if it's not implemented, it's a crime. That means as well it should be implemented in a very efficient way and very fast, because the president has done so many projects and he's done them in such a speed in order to prepare the whole country into another step of its future, and now it's the role of the local authorities in some areas to improve the local way of living by making the sewage projects and all the other projects that he's suggesting. So that's for that. And for Sinai, he started the development of Sinai. He is in the meantime clearing terrorist acts. So he's preparing in a way Sinai to receive a lot of investment and projects, and he's implementing the new laws for the projects in Sinai equally. Again, for the roads, he's done the roads, and now he is ruling the rules for the road. On each side of the road, it will become like a military property, and no one has the right to do anything on 2 kilometers on each side of the road. So all these are steps to prepare Egypt for another. It's like going up a pyramid. He's done the basics, which are very important, and at all level. He's done the external relation, the relation with Africa, the roads, the treaties with a lot of countries, and
infrastructure.
And the infrastructure, not just infrastructure, and the relations with the foreign countries, the foreign relations, and the relation with the Arab countries. So he's
paving the way.
Yeah. So this is another step of the pyramid that he's going higher, and hopefully by the end of 2 years he would reach the highest point of his pyramid.
Moving on to another headline from Akhbar al-Yawm. A second ship equipped with specialist search devices will join the hunt for the black box flight recorders and the wreckage of an Egypt Air jet on Friday. Equipped with specialist search devices will join the hunt for the black box flight recorders and the wreckage of an Egypt Air jet on Friday. A French naval supply vessel picked up a signal from one of the 2 recorders on June the 1st, and Egypt has chartered a second vessel operated by Morcos Deep Ocean Search, equipped with sonar equipment and an underwater vehicle. Remy Juti, director of the BEA Air Accident Agency, which is advising Egypt on the underwater search, said the first ship continued to pick up locator signals from the first recorder, whose location had been narrowed to within 1 to 2 kilometers. Pending the search for the two recorders, the Egyptian-led investigation is still very far from understanding why Flight 804 crashed into the Mediterranean on the 19th of May, killing all the 66 people on board. Each recorder, one containing cockpit voice recordings and the other data from the Airbus A320 jet, is attached to a beacon besieged, actually or designed to emit acoustic homing signals for 30 days, giving search teams limited time to detect the second box.
Welcome back, and still they are searching definitely for the black boxes to this catastrophe that took place, talking about the crash of the airplane in the Mediterranean recently.
Of course, now that they discovered where is the plot where it has located. It may be a bit difficult to get them. Maybe if it's very deep, maybe they will take the help of some drilling oil companies who have tools that can go as deep as that if it's very hard, and hopefully they'll reach that very soon.
You have to understand that this will take time, and there are others, it took them years.
And until now we cannot find the other planes that were drowned a long time ago. And until now,
we have to wait, and we hope that we can reach to the reason why this flight was crashed. Moving on to Ahram Online. Several Egyptian parliamentarians have welcomed the government's announcement on Wednesday that their country's controversial protest law would soon be amended, while saying they were preparing their own proposals for changes. We have more details in the following report.
Welcomed the government's announcement that the country's controversial protest law would soon be amended, while saying they were preparing their own proposals for changes. On Thursday, Ala Abed, the head of the parliamentary bloc for the Liberal Free Egyptians Party, which has campaigned for parliament on a promise to attempt to amend the law, said that the party is currently studying several drafts for the law before submitting its own proposals to the parliament. Parliament will study all drafts, whether submitted by the government or by MPs, said Abed, whose party holds the most representatives of any party in the 596-member legislature with 65 seats. On Wednesday, Minister of Parliamentary Affairs Megdi El-Aggati announced that a government committee will soon meet to amend the protest law to go in line with the 2014 constitution. The law, which mandates stiff prison terms of up to 3 years in jail as well as hefty fines for those who protest without a government permit, was passed in November 2013 during the turbulent period that followed the ouster of the Islamic President Mohammed Morsi. The authorities have applied the law since it was first implemented to jail thousands of protesters, mostly supporters of the now banned Muslim Brotherhood group, but also hundreds of non-Islamist demonstrators. Critics say that the law, which mandates stiff prison terms of up to 3 years in prison and heavy fines for those who protest without a government permit, infringes on the constitutional right of citizens to hold peaceful protests, including street demonstrations. Article 73 of the Constitution states that the citizens shall have the right to organize public meetings, marches, demonstrations, and all forms of peaceful protests without carrying arms of any kind by serving a notification as regulated by law. Muhammad Ismat al-Sadat, an independent Liberal MP and head of Parliament's Human Rights Committee, was one of those MPs who welcomed changing some articles in the protest law which criminalize peaceful demonstrations. Al-Sadat, a critic of tough penalties in the law, called on the government to take in account recommendations by the semi-governmental National Council on Human Rights as well as NGOs while preparing a final draft. The NHCR has long lobbied the government to pass up a new version of the law that only regulates peaceful protests but not criminalize them and eliminates articles that violate the Constitution. On Thursday, the NHCR issued a statement reiterating its stance that the protest law was in essence conflating street protests with terrorism and threats to state institutions. An official discussion by the Parliament on the protest law would mark the first time the legislature, which convened in January 2016, reviews the law since it was first passed in 2013. The law was not among 340 legislations passed by the executive in the absence of the legislature revised by the current parliament, as mandated by the 2014 constitution, since it was issued before the charter was approved by the electorate. El-Aggati said that the committee in charge of amending the law would include government legal advisors. They will study the articles imposing penalties on violators of the law in order to make it easier to organize peaceful protests, El-Aggati said. The committee can also seek the advice of independent legal experts on human rights organizations, and it will review protest laws issued in different countries to determine if Egypt's law is significantly tougher. Leftist independent MP Haytham El-Hariri said in press statements on Thursday that amending the law will send an important message locally and abroad that Egypt is a state that respects human rights and freedom of expression. The Alexandria representative sent his own proposals for amendments, which were also based on recommendations of the NHCR to the Speaker of the Parliament, Ali Abdel Mouti, after El-Aggati's announcement. Earlier in the week, before El-Aggati's announcement, El-Sadat urged the government to pardon those prisoners jailed based on the protest law, which have not committed any violent acts, saying the state needs to diffuse tensions with Egypt's youth. The government has on more than one occasion pardoned prisoners jailed based on the protest law, and appeals courts have also reduced some of the sentences meted out to defendants by lower courts.
Welcome back. And maybe here we can put it like this: the most important part or the key words here is law and order.
Exactly. And I hope that all the member of parliaments will be inspired by the law of protest all over the world.
Not just to satisfy people.
Yeah, exactly. Because all over the world there are strict and very strict laws regarding protests, and everything has to be respected to the word and to the centimeter and the meter and where you're going to be. So if we're going to look at ourselves and think of things that can arrange ourselves only and certain people only, it will not work. We have to see how it's implemented all over the world, and because as well we are not in a normal situation. We are in a situation where the terrorism, there are a lot of disturbance done by a lot of people, so we have to be more strict even than ever.
Right, and actually very quickly, Egypt's core inflation jumped to 12.23% year-on-year in May, up from 9.51% in April, and this is according to the central bank. Egypt's annual urban consumer price inflation jumped to 12.3% in May from 10.3% in April. Your quick comment.
Of course, first there is the increase of the price of the dollar would make the price of everything goes higher, and the inflation would follow. So that's as quick as I can.
Right. At the end, Dr. Viviana Morcos, a political commentator, thank you very much. Always a pleasure having you with us on the show.
Thank you. It's my pleasure.
Right, and still we have more. So let's move on to a quick break, and we'll be back to resume our breakfast show.
The month of Ramadan is the month of fasting and nightly prayers. The month of goodness, blessings and charity. The month of patience and good manners.